It was one of those days when the world felt too loud, not just outside, but inside too. The kind of day where even the ticking of a clock sounds like an alarm, where silence feels suspicious, and your own thoughts begin to chase each other like shadows under a flickering light. That morning, the sun had risen just like it always does. Birds chirped, people rushed to their lives, and the city breathed in its usual rhythm. But somehow, everything felt different. Offbeat. Uneasy. I sat by the window holding a warm mug of coffee that had already gone cold. I wasn't really drinking it. I was just holding on to something. Maybe to stay grounded, maybe to avoid thinking, or maybe because the quiet weight of a coffee mug felt like the only thing that made sense that day. Outside, a dog barked. Somewhere, a baby cried. And in between all that sound, I realized something. I wasn't afraid of the noise anymore. I was afraid of what I'd hear in the silence. Because silence, for many of us, isn't peaceful. It's a mirror. And sometimes, we don't want to look into it. I remember a time when I believed peace meant absence. Absence of noise, absence of problems, absence of people yelling over each other. I thought if I could just escape everything, run to the hills, lie under the stars, maybe then I'd feel calm. But peace is not a location. You can sit at the edge of the ocean with the wind in your hair and still feel like you're drowning. Or you could be in the middle of traffic and somehow feel untouched, like you're the eye in a hurricane. It's strange, isn't it? How the same world can be both unbearable and beautiful at the same time. How your heart can ache and still beat with hope. I didn't always know that. I learned it the hard way, through days that felt like puzzles with missing pieces, through nights when sleep wouldn't come and thoughts marched like soldiers in my mind, through moments when I smiled for others, but forgot how to smile for myself. But here's what started changing me. Not all at once, but slowly, like a sunrise that takes its time. I began noticing small things. The sound of the kettle before it whistles. The way the light hits the floor at exactly 5:45 p.m. The softness in someone's eyes when they ask, "Are you okay?" And actually mean it. And I realized, peace doesn't come crashing in like thunder. It whispers, and often we're too loud to hear it. There was this old man I once met at a park. He was just sitting there feeding birds with pieces of bread. I asked him if he came there every day. He nodded and said, "Every single morning. It's my silence hour." I smiled, not fully understanding. "Silence hour?" I asked. He looked at me and said, "Because the world doesn't give you peace, son. You have to make room for it." I didn't forget that. You have to make room for it. That sentence sat with me for weeks. What does it mean to make room for peace? Is it a matter of schedule, or sacrifice, or something else? I started experimenting. Waking up just a little earlier, not checking my phone the first thing in the morning, drinking my tea without a screen in front of me, and most of all, allowing myself to just be. Not productive, not perfect, just present. And it was awkward at first. Sitting alone, doing nothing, was uncomfortable. Because we're trained to run from boredom, from feelings, from stillness. But eventually, in that stillness, I started hearing my own breath, feeling the rise and fall of my chest, noticing how the wind brushed past my arm. And suddenly, life wasn't rushing by me. It was waiting for me to notice it. I think that's where peace lives. Not in perfection, but in presence. I remember a rainy afternoon when everything felt like too much. Work pressure, family expectations, my own unrealistic goals. They all came crashing down like thunder. I felt heavy, like I was carrying an invisible weight I couldn't explain. So I stepped outside, barefoot, into the rain. People might think that's silly, even childish, but I didn't care. The cold drops hit my skin, and for a moment, it felt like the sky was crying with me. I tilted my head up, closed my eyes, and let it all go. No words, no thoughts, just surrender. And you know what I felt? Relief. Not because my problems vanished, but because I stopped fighting the moment. I allowed it. I accepted it. That acceptance was peace. I've learned something that I now carry with me every single day. Chaos isn't the enemy. It's the teacher. It forces us to slow down, to question, to rediscover the quiet corners of ourselves. The world will always be loud. Deadlines, social media, heartbreaks, worries, they don't stop. But peace isn't the absence of chaos. It's the decision to not let chaos live inside you. And that decision is not made once. It's made again and again. With every deep breath, every pause, every time you choose kindness over anger, every time you forgive yourself, every time you close your eyes and whisper to your own soul, I'm here. I'm listening. And when you do that, when you truly start listening, you'll hear something remarkable. Your own heartbeat. And it'll remind you that no matter how messy life gets, you're still alive, still breathing, still capable of choosing peace. There was a time I believed that if I could fix everything around me, then I'd finally feel peace within me. So I kept trying. Fixing people, fixing situations, fixing plans that kept falling apart. But the more I tried to control everything, the more I felt things slipping through my fingers, like trying to hold on to water. That's the thing with chaos. The more you resist it, the louder it becomes. It was during one of those breakdown moments when I found myself sitting in my car at a parking lot, eyes closed, heart racing, doing everything I could not to fall apart. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat still. And in that stillness, I asked myself a question I had never dared to ask before. What if peace is not something I chase, but something I uncover? That question stayed with me. I began to notice how often we fill our days with noise. Not just external, but internal too. Thoughts that spiral out of control, expectations that never seem to rest, and the weight of all the shoulds we carry like invisible bricks on our backs. I should be more successful. I should be happier. I should be stronger. But peace doesn't live in should. It lives in enough. It lives in the quiet, courageous act of saying, I am doing my best, and for today, that is enough. I once watched a little girl at the park fall down while running. She scraped her knee and looked around, waiting, it seemed, for someone to tell her how to react. When no one panicked, she didn't either. She brushed herself off, stood back up, and kept running. And that moment taught me something so simple, yet so powerful. Sometimes peace is just not overreacting to the fall. It's about choosing your response, not just reacting from fear or frustration. It's breathing before speaking. It's holding your tongue when anger surges. It's learning that not everything deserves your energy. That's one of the hardest things to master in a chaotic world, knowing where to place your peace. I started to shift the way I spoke to myself. Instead of, why is this happening to me? I tried, what is this trying to teach me? It wasn't easy. Some days it felt like lying to myself. But slowly, That question helped me transform pain into purpose. Not overnight, but one breath, one lesson, one sunrise at a time. I remember being in a room full of people yet feeling completely alone. Their laughter didn't reach me. Their words passed through me. And I realized, loneliness isn't always about who is around you. Sometimes it's about being disconnected from your own soul. That disconnection breeds restlessness. And the antidote? Reconnection. So I started spending time with myself. Not scrolling, not working, not escaping. Just being. I sat by the river and watched the water flow without any need to change its direction. I walked without destination, listening to the rhythm of my feet. I lit candles at night and listened to old songs that reminded me of who I was before the noise took over. And somewhere in between all of that, I found little pieces of peace. Not the dramatic, cinematic kind, but the soft, gentle kind. The kind that whispers in the back of your heart, "You're going to be okay." And over time, I began to believe it. There was a man I once met at a bookstore. We got talking about stress, about burnout, about how everything feels so fast these days. He said something I've never forgotten. We're all looking for peace like it's a destination, but maybe it's more like a practice, like brushing your teeth. You do it every day, not because you're broken, but because it's how you stay well. That stayed with me. Peace isn't permanent. It's not a one-time achievement. It's daily. It's maintenance. It's saying no when you need to. It's forgiving even when the other person isn't sorry. It's learning to let go of stories that no longer serve you, like the one where you always have to be strong, or the one where you can't make mistakes, or the one where your worth is tied to how productive you are. Because those stories, as familiar as they feel, are not your truth. They are just noise. And peace comes when we turn the volume down on those stories and start listening to our real voice again. I remember one late night when I stood outside under the stars. The world was asleep. My thoughts had finally quieted, and in that deep silence, I felt something rare. Stillness without fear. No rush, no regret. Just this soft understanding that I didn't need to fix the whole world to feel okay in mine. All I needed was to be kind to myself in that moment. That was enough. And maybe that's what peace really is. It's not an escape from life, but a new way of showing up for it. A way that doesn't require drama or noise to feel alive. A way where the simple things, like breathing, noticing, forgiving, become powerful again. Because peace is not a prize for the lucky. It's not a finish line for the perfect. It's a choice. A quiet, stubborn, everyday kind of choice. One that says, I will not let the world decide the rhythm of my soul. I will not let chaos define my character. And even when everything feels like it's falling apart, you can still choose to hold on to yourself. To remind your heart that peace isn't somewhere else. It's already within you. Waiting. Somewhere along the way, I realized that most of us are not really living. We're surviving. We're running from one task to another, rushing through days we barely remember, trying to meet invisible deadlines for happiness. We keep thinking, once this is over, then I'll rest. Then I'll breathe. Then I'll be at peace. But life doesn't slow down for our permission. It keeps moving. So maybe peace is not in what we postpone, but in what we allow ourselves to feel now. There was a morning when I woke up to a sky full of rain. Everything outside was soaked, gray, quiet. I didn't have anywhere to be that day, so I made tea and just sat by the window. No music, no phone, just the sound of the rain and the steam rising from my cup. That moment didn't fix my life, but it calmed me. It reminded me that peace doesn't need to be loud. Sometimes it comes dressed in silence. So many of us are afraid of silence. We fill every space with sound, podcasts, messages, calls, scrolling. But silence isn't empty. It's where your soul breathes. It's where the truth whispers. And if you sit with it long enough, you start to hear things you've been running from. Like how tired you really are, how much you miss yourself, how long it's been since you felt safe inside your own skin. And it's in those honest moments that peace begins to rise. Not like a sudden light switch, but more like the sun. Gradual, soft, steady. It grows every time you choose to stay with yourself instead of running away. It grows every time you take one honest breath, one real pause, one small act of self-kindness. One evening, I watched a man feeding stray dogs outside a cafe. No camera, no audience, just quiet compassion. He wasn't trying to prove anything. He was just present. And it struck me. Peace isn't always personal. Sometimes it's found in connection, in doing something good, expecting nothing back, in being part of something bigger than yourself. I started noticing the little ways we can create peace, not just for ourselves, but for others. Holding the door a second longer, letting someone speak without interrupting, saying, "I understand," instead of, "You should have known better." Those small moments may seem ordinary, but they carry so much power. Because when you offer peace, you start to feel it too. There was a time I used to believe that peace required a perfect life. No problems, no conflict, no pain. But life is never that clean. There's always noise, always something unexpected. And yet, I've met people who carry peace like a light in their eyes, even while walking through fire. I wanted to know their secret. And slowly, I discovered it wasn't that their life was easier. It was that their heart had learned to let go. Let go of control. Let go of needing everyone to understand. Let go of replaying old memories like broken records. That kind of peace doesn't come from running away. It comes from walking through pain, but not letting it change who you are. It comes from accepting that you won't always have closure, that sometimes people leave without goodbye, that sometimes life doesn't give you a reason. But even then, you can choose peace. You can choose not to let the wound turn into bitterness. You can choose to heal even if no one apologizes. There was a night I couldn't sleep. My head was loud. My chest felt heavy. I got up and walked barefoot in the living room, letting my thoughts spin until they got tired. And suddenly, a question dropped into my heart like a whisper. What if you don't need to have it all figured out tonight? That's when it hit me. We exhaust ourselves trying to solve problems that don't need solving right now. We rush answers. We force decisions. But peace doesn't live in urgency. It lives in surrender, in knowing that some things will unfold in their own time, and that it's okay not to know everything today. I started writing letters to myself on hard days, not long ones, just short, kind notes. You're trying, and that's enough. Breathe. This moment will pass. You don't need to carry it all. At first, it felt silly, but those letters became anchors. On days when I couldn't find peace outside, I found it in my own words. And maybe that's the most powerful thing I've learned, that peace is already inside you. It's not something the world gives. It's something you uncover by listening, by slowing down, by returning to who you truly are underneath all the chaos. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're not too late. You're just human. And sometimes, being human is messy, but it's also beautiful. And in that mess, in that ordinary, imperfect journey, peace waits for you. Always. One of the hardest things I've ever had to learn was how to be kind to myself when everything felt wrong. It's strange, isn't it? How naturally we offer kindness to others. It's okay, take your time. You're doing your best. But when it comes to our own heart, we turn cold. We push ourselves, blame ourselves, tell ourselves we should have known better. But peace can't grow where there's punishment. It grows in places where grace lives. I remember sitting on the floor once, surrounded by unfolded laundry, unread messages, and an overwhelming sense of failure. Nothing tragic had happened, but it felt like everything was falling apart. I hadn't slept well in days. I was running on autopilot. And in that moment, I broke down. Not because of the mess outside, but because of the mess inside that I kept ignoring. It's in moments like that when we're most vulnerable to our inner critic. That voice that says, "You're not enough. You'll never get it together. You're failing at life." And yet, if a friend were sitting beside us, struggling the same way, we'd never speak to them like that. So, why do we speak to ourselves with such cruelty? That night, I whispered something out loud I'd never said to myself before. It's okay that you're not okay. And surprisingly, it helped. It didn't fix anything immediately, but it softened something inside me. I didn't need to be perfect to be worthy of rest. I didn't need to be strong to deserve peace. So I started practicing compassion, not just for others, but for myself. I allowed myself slow mornings. I forgave myself for not replying to every message. I let myself cry without apology. And most importantly, I stopped expecting myself to always be fine. Peace began there. We live in a world that glorifies being busy. If your calendar isn't full, if you're not hustling, grinding, achieving, you're seen as lazy. But what if peace isn't found in movement, but in stillness? What if the most powerful thing you can do is pause? I started creating tiny rituals, lighting a candle before work, stretching in silence for 5 minutes, washing my face slowly at night. These weren't big things, but they helped me return to the present. They reminded me that life isn't only about doing, it's also about being. One day, I sat in a crowded park, watching a little girl chase a butterfly. She didn't care about what others thought. She wasn't embarrassed. She was fully alive in the moment. And it hit me. Peace is often hidden in innocence, in laughter without reason, in play without a goal, in moments that don't need to mean anything grand to be meaningful. I think we forget how to play as we grow older. We get serious, structured, cautious. But maybe the real freedom lies in allowing ourselves to be light again, to dance in the kitchen, to sing off-key, to make pancakes at midnight just because. Peace doesn't always have to be quiet. Sometimes it's silly, sometimes it's joyful, sometimes it's loud in a way that heals. But then there are days when joy feels far away, days when the weight is heavy, when the tears come without warning, when the world feels too loud and your heart feels too tired. On those days, peace doesn't look like sunshine or laughter. It looks like survival. It looks like taking a shower, answering one message, eating something warm. And that's okay too. We need to stop measuring peace by perfection. Some days peace is big and bright. Other days it's just making it through the hour without falling apart. And both are valid. Both are brave. I started writing a list of things that make me feel grounded. Not the usual self-care stuff, but real, raw, personal things, like the smell of clean bedsheets, or watching clouds move, or holding a hot mug with both hands. Every time chaos visited, I'd return to that list. It became my reminder that peace isn't gone. It's just waiting to be noticed. And maybe that's the heart of it. Peace is not a destination you reach. It's a relationship you build, a practice, a daily choice, to listen instead of react, to breathe before speaking, to rest instead of rush, to forgive instead of hold on. It's not always easy. Sometimes people will test your peace. Sometimes circumstances will shake it. But when you've built peace from within, it becomes harder to steal, because it's no longer dependent on others. It's rooted in who you've become. There was a moment, quiet, unexpected, when I realized I hadn't been anxious all day. No panic, no overthinking, just presence. I didn't even notice it until I sat down at night and thought, wow, that felt peaceful. That's the thing about real peace. It doesn't scream for attention. It just arrives quietly and changes everything. So if you're chasing peace, maybe stop chasing. Maybe turn inward. Ask yourself, where have I been unkind to me? What am I carrying that's not mine to hold? What would it look like to soften? Because peace isn't the absence of chaos. It's the strength to hold chaos gently, without letting it own you. It's the pause in between the noise, the inhale before the storm, the quiet voice that says, I'm still here, and you are. There's something deeply powerful about learning how to let go. Not the kind of letting go where you give up, but the kind where you set yourself free. It's strange how long we carry things that were never meant to stay. Old arguments, heavy expectations, broken dreams, words that hurt us years ago. We tuck them into our memories like they define who we are. But the truth is, holding on to pain doesn't make us strong. Letting it go does. I had this habit of replaying conversations in my mind. You know, those I should have said this, or why didn't I do that loops. I'd lose hours fighting invisible battles with people who had long moved on. It wasn't just exhausting, it was imprisoning. And I didn't even realize I was the one keeping myself stuck. One night, I stared at the ceiling, caught in another replay. Same people, same stories, same emotions. And for the first time, I asked myself, why am I still carrying this? The answer hit hard. I was scared that if I let it go, it would mean what happened didn't matter, that I didn't matter. But the more I sat with that thought, the more I understood. Letting go doesn't erase the story. It just means I don't have to relive the pain. So I started practicing release. Not by forcing myself to forget, but by gently telling myself, this memory doesn't need to hurt me anymore. Some days it worked. Other days, it came back. But each time, the grip loosened a little more. That's how healing works. Not in big, loud moments, but in quiet, repeated choices. Peace isn't always about fixing everything. Sometimes it's about accepting what you cannot change and choosing to move forward anyway. Like walking through fog with faith that the path will become clear. It's hard. But there's something beautiful about trusting yourself, even when you don't have all the answers. There was a woman I met at a retreat once. She'd lost everything in a single year. Her job, her partner, her health. Yet she carried herself with this strange kind of grace. When someone asked how she was so calm, she smiled and said, I stopped asking why it happened and started asking what it's teaching me. That line stayed with me. not because it sounded wise, but because it came from a place of deep surrender. See, peace isn't passive. It's a strong choice. It's deciding that your energy is too precious to be wasted on things you can't control. It's setting boundaries, not just with others, but with your own thoughts. Telling yourself, I won't go there today. When an old pain knocks at your door. And then there's forgiveness. Not the kind you give because someone apologized, but the kind you give to free yourself. Forgiveness doesn't mean you approve of what happened. It means you refuse to let it poison your peace. I learned that the hard way. I held on to resentment for years, thinking it protected me. But it only made me bitter. It changed how I saw the world. It kept joy at a distance. One day, I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the heaviness in my eyes. That's when I knew. It was time to forgive. Not for them. For me. Because peace can't grow in a heart that's closed off. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's strength. The kind that says, you hurt me, but you can't have all of me. The journey to peace often involves sitting with discomfort, letting tears fall without rushing to stop them, listening to the silence between your thoughts, asking hard questions like, what do I really want? And who am I when everything falls away? It's during those raw, unfiltered moments that you meet yourself, not the version you show to the world, the real you, the one who's scared but brave, tired but trying, broken but still beautiful. That version deserves peace more than anyone. And sometimes, peace shows up in the most unexpected ways, like a song playing at the right time, or a stranger's smile, or a quiet morning where nothing happens but your heart feels lighter. Don't overlook those moments. They're reminders, gentle signs that you're healing. You don't have to have it all figured out to find peace. You just need to create space for it. Space in your schedule. Space in your mind. Space in your heart. Say no to what drains you. Say yes to what restores you. Protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. I used to think peace was a destination, a place I'd arrive at once I fixed everything, once I became everything. But now I know it's a way of living, a way of breathing, a way of being honest with yourself and soft with the world. It's in how you speak to yourself when you mess up, how you pause before reacting, how you choose presence over perfection, how you keep showing up for life, even on the messy days. Because life will always be chaotic. People will disappoint. Plans will fall through. Emotions will rise. But inside all that noise, there is a stillness, a center, a quiet truth that whispers, you are safe here. You are enough here. You just have to listen. There comes a moment in life when you stop chasing calm and start becoming it. You realize that peace was never lost. It was just buried under noise, expectations, and the endless need to be okay for everyone else. And when you begin to strip away those layers, something magical happens. You find yourself again, not the version the world shaped, but the real, quiet you. That's when peace becomes a habit, not just a feeling. You learn to pause before speaking, to breathe before reacting, to step away when your heart feels heavy. You understand that not every invitation needs a yes, not every opinion needs a response, and not every fight deserves your fire. That's wisdom wrapped in softness, and in this softness, you rediscover the power of now. We spend so much time trapped in the past, what went wrong, who hurt us, where we failed, or worrying about the future. What if this doesn't work? What if I'm not enough? What if I lose everything again? But life is only ever happening right here, in this breath, in this heartbeat, in this very second where you are safe, alive, and more than enough. It took me years to understand that living in the moment isn't about ignoring pain or pretending everything is fine. It's about choosing to focus on what's real, not what's imagined. Right now, the sun might be shining through your window. Right now, your body is breathing without permission. Right now, something is working in your favor, even if you don't see it yet. That's peace. And it grows stronger when you stop rushing. There is no prize for being the busiest, no trophy for carrying the most stress. We glorify hustle, but forget that rest is holy too. Slowness teaches you to feel again, to notice the little things, the way tea tastes on a cold morning, how your pet leans into you without words, the sound of your own laughter when you truly let go. These small joys, they anchor you. They pull you back to the center when life spins fast. When you begin to trust the rhythm of your life, you stop comparing your journey to others. You realize that someone else's chapter 20 doesn't make your chapter 3 any less valuable. You stop measuring your worth by timelines and milestones, and instead, start living by truth. And the truth is, your pace is perfect. You are exactly where you need to be to grow into who you're meant to become. Peace also deepens when you surround yourself with people who feel like light. People who don't drain you with drama. People who hold space for your silence. People who remind you that being real is more important than being impressive. Life is too short to be lived around those who dim your shine. Choose company that feels like a soft place to land. And be that safe space for others too. But even when you're alone, know this: you are not lonely. Solitude is sacred. It's where your soul breathes without interruption. It's where your thoughts can wander without judgment. In the quiet, you meet yourself. And the more time you spend with your own heart, the less you'll seek approval from outside. You'll begin to enjoy your own presence. You'll realize you are your own home. From that place of self-awareness, self-kindness grows. You'll stop being so hard on yourself. You'll look back and forgive the version of you who didn't know better. You'll honor the version who tried, even when it hurt. And you'll celebrate the version who's still here, braver, wiser, and more grounded than ever before. Peace becomes more than a goal. It becomes who you are. Not because life is perfect, but because you've stopped trying to control what you can't and started choosing what you can. You can choose what you focus on. You can choose how you respond. You can choose to pause, to pray, to protect your peace like it's the most precious gift. And truly, it is. And then, something incredible happens. Even in the middle of chaos, when things fall apart, when storms rise, when life surprises you with heartache, you find that quiet place within you that doesn't shake, that doesn't crumble, that knows, I've been through worse and still I'm here. That's your anchor. That's your power. That's the peace that no one can steal. So if today your world feels heavy, take heart. You don't have to fix everything at once. You just have to take one honest breath. Close your eyes. Feel the ground beneath you. Remind yourself, I am safe. I am strong. I am enough. And if you forget tomorrow, remind yourself again. Peace isn't about never breaking. It's about knowing how to mend. Be patient with your healing. Be gentle with your growth. Celebrate small steps. Rest when you need. Let go of guilt. Speak kindly to yourself. And always remember, Chaos may roar around you, but it cannot live inside you unless you let it. You are the calm in your own storm. You are the lighthouse in your dark sea. And no matter what the world throws at you, the peace you build within yourself will always guide you home. If this journey touched your heart, don't forget to stay connected with us. Subscribe to Mind-Blowing Motive for more heart-healing stories and motivational moments. Let's grow, heal, and shine together.